Welcome to ThinkTech on OC16, Hawaii's weekly newscast on things that matter to tech and to Hawaii. I'm Jay Fidell.
And I'm Duke Oishi.
In our show tonight, we'll meet an extraordinary local artist, Susie Anderson, and learn about how she found her path in life and in art.
She paints en plein air, which in French means in the open air. We'll join her at some of her favorite painting locations and visit some of her favorite galleries.
We took an early morning drive to see two of her favorite painting locations. First, Wailupe, then Makapu'u Point. The light at Makapu'u was good, and she painted for us there. So tell us where we're going to go this morning.
All right. Our ultimate goal is to Makapu'u because it's one of my favorite places to paint, and it's so gorgeous in the morning, and I'm hoping the surf is up and the tide is low and the sun is shining. I love painting at the surf's edge because it's so exciting. It just infuses new energy to my paintings. But we're going to stop on the way at Wailupe Beach Park because it is also another favorite place of mine, and we'll scope it out. You know, going plein air painting is kind of like going on a surfing expedition. You look for the best surf, for the best painting spots, but you want to catch the light. So it's all about the light. So here we are at Wailupe.
Okay, here we are at, what is this, Wailupe?
Wailupe Beach Park.
This is low tide here?
Yeah, and I love it. Love to paint here when it's low tide. Actually, this is a wonderful spot at the end of the day too, because the sun is coming this way and shining on the wharfs and the houses, and if you can get low tide at the end of the day and this golden sunlight coming, this is just fabulous.
So you get the shadows on the rocks.
Exactly.
And they're all pointing very, very distinct.
Yep, and the reflection of the clouds. It can be really, really magic out here. When I'm painting, it's rediscovering the beauty of Hawaii. Sometimes we all get jaded a little bit. You know, You live in a beautiful place and you take it for granted, but as a painter, I'm finding new places that are just spectacular. And this is like almost to die for composition with a little red canoe out in the middle and the diamond head in the background. You know, artists can move mountains or trees or do whatever they want to do, right, to make a composition. I would probably take one of these palm trees and lower it and make it more angled over the top of the focal point, which would be the red canoe.
The red canoe?
That's your spot of color.
Right.
The rest is background and setting, but this is really beautiful right here. And the shadows of the trees leading into the canoe. I might stand over here where I get some of the low tide and the rocks in here.
Yeah.
You know, it's really, really gorgeous. So you want to basically throw out of focus a lot of the things that are around your subject matter. And that's one of the precepts of a good painting.
Do you ever use photography?
Oh, I use photography all the time. You know, it's one of the tools in my arsenal, but I use it as a reference point. I use it for memory. I use it for detail. For instance, if I wanted to really do a very detailed painting of that canoe, I would use a photograph afterwards. When I'm painting on location, I want to get about 70 to 80% done if I can, in about 2 hours.
Yeah.
And the rest, then I'll take back in the studio and clean up. And
might be days.
It might be a month,
Yeah.
but generally I like to work on my paintings as soon as I can after I do them.
Timeless.
Okay. Yeah.
And you could paint it over and over again, couldn't you? And get a different kind of feeling every time.
Yes, you could. Well, it'd look very different in the late afternoon, too. And that's the thing, is that the different locations that I paint at, some are morning paintings, some are evening paintings.
Yeah.
And they all have their special character. You have to feel passionate about your subject, or else your paintings won't show it. And now when I go out on location, I never know. It's like a fishing trip, right? I never know whether the fish are going to bite. And some days they just leap into your boat and you wonder how they got there. And
maybe
other
it's
days,
breakfast.
Yeah, maybe it's breakfast. And other days, you know, you're not inspired whatsoever. The painter's eye is developed over time, basically.
Yes.
It's going out, it's painting many, many times and finding out what rings your bell, and then getting a little bit better at it, and you know, it all takes time. I think that there's a tremendously broad spectrum of very talented artists in Hawaii. And people come to Hawaii to live and to paint and to do their craft, to do their artwork. Art is so important to everyone's life because it offers beauty, it offers inspiration, it is just so uplifting to have beautiful work around you. And it doesn't, maybe, you know, my interpretation of beautiful may be very different than the next guy's. What inspires or turns me on might be very different than the next person. So I can only focus on what I know brings joy and happiness and beauty into my life.
The first order of business is to make it work for you.
That's right, exactly.
Are you in an evolution?
I think I always have to be in an evolution. So
Yeah.
you really can't sit on your laurels. You have to keep trying and changing something.
This is the part that is not so glamorous.
You got that straight?
And each one of these pieces is critical too.
Yes. I like this right here. I like the composition, the tide pools in the foreground, the color of the rocks, and I happen to know from consulting a tide calendar that the tide is even going to get lower as the morning goes on. But looking at the beautiful surf going out and the islands, perfect. So I like getting down here and being close, feeling the energy of the surf and the waves. It's just exciting. Okay, I'm going to show you my fantastic easel. This is a Soltech, and it really is a space-age easel. This goes like this. This comes off, and at the end of my painting session,
Yeah.
I have made a little gator board hale, a little house for it, and it slips into it, put it in plastic, put it in my freezer, and I don't throw paint away. So, and it keeps it clean so that this is my painting palette area, my mixing area. I have a drawing box that my husband made for me, actually.
Yeah, and everything
it's-
slips in a
and
little-
everything slips into it.
So it doesn't touch.
No, it doesn't touch. I can get 3 panels in this box.
Oh.
And I make my own panels. They're gator board, and I mount canvas to the surface of the gator board.
Oh, and this is you've already mounted the canvas.
I've already
here.
mounted the canvas, so it's ready to paint, and I've added some gesso to the top so that it's ready to paint. Gesso.
Okay, thank you.
So when I go outside and paint, I know that the chances of me coming home with a really great painting are not that terrific. But it may be a study for a larger piece.
Right.
A lot of times that's the case.
Right.
Maybe I'll get some of it right on this study, and it will then inspire me to do a studio piece.
You can actually start now. You got your white,
Yeah.
you got your paint, your brushes,
Have one
your
of the
solvent. You have those
palette knives. Yeah, I have palette knives. You know, the plein air movement in the country has just gone gangbusters. It's just boom, because people of all ages are realizing how much fun it is to get out and do this.
Well, the other element, don't you think, is that the plein air is actually shrinking as civilization paves everything over. So you come here and do this and you think, well, how long exactly will this last?
How long?
And you want to memorialize it, you know, if for no other reason than for that reason.
Absolutely. I mean, for instance, I've painted a lot of paintings of the old orange lifeguard stations. I love the character of those old orange lifeguard stations. And they don't exist anymore. And so I love the paintings that I did of that. I mean,
Yeah.
those are things, all of a sudden, I started seeing these new ones being built, and I thought those look like, you know, bunker houses.
Okay, it's that first stroke. That's the one that I would have trouble making. You know, she's just finding highlights and defining, staking territory just to get those initial lines and shapes in place, just to rough it out in the roughest way.
So I'm blocking in the big shapes. I'm not so concerned with the color as I am of getting these big shapes in and figuring out what my composition is going to be. So now I'm going to stand back here a minute. Now that I've got kind of a basic composition going, see if it's balanced, see if my shapes are working. This is actually, at this point, it's almost like a watercolor because the paint is very thin. Okay, I kind of like what's going on.
You normally go further than this, though.
I do. I normally go further than this, but we can stop at this point and call it a morning.
I don't know if you have the time for this, but I'm thinking it would be really fabulous if you worked on it at home.
Yeah.
And did a sort of time sequence,
I could do that.
time lapse.
Sure, I could do
And
that.
then you could email me the time lapse, and I could put that on the show. It'd be fabulous.
All right, all right.
Then we drove back to Ward Center, where she showed us her favorite pieces and two of her favorite galleries.
The gallery at Ward Center was begun 23 years ago. It's a cooperative artist gallery. There are 16 artist members, owners, and we all take turns working here. This month I am upstairs.
Oh, I see. You rotate downstairs.
We
next
rotate.
month.
We rotate every single month. This first painting is of a beach road at the foot of Diamond Head, and it's like one of the places like Makapu'u. It's my muse. It speaks to me. Every time I go there, I end up with a keeper, what I call a keeper. This is the old plantation office for Grove Farm, which was the most successful sugar producer on the island of Kauai. And we had an opportunity, there were about 14 or 15 of us, to paint on the grounds of this wonderful museum and home. I started this painting doing the whole cottage, and I painted for about 45 minutes, and finally I said, no, it's not happening for me, it's just not working. But what really drew me was this bicycle back in this alcove. So I scraped the whole thing down, turn it another direction, and painted this. I love old trucks and anything that, smacks of old stuff. The very first day before the paint out began, my friend and I were looking for places to paint, unique, and I said, let's go to the old Kaloa mill, because I remembered they had old trucks in the yard there. Now, you have to remember that this is, the mill stopped producing years ago, but they had a couple of these old Big Mac trucks out there rusting away, old hulks. And this is another one that I did at Grove Farm, looking across the fence. These were two falling down garages that I just loved. They had so much character to them. The color, and you just wonder what treasures are hidden inside those garages. So I call this Pals to the End. I mean, they were literally keeping themselves braced up before they fall down. And then the next painting was a little study I did up at Kaloa Reservoir, which is beautiful, beautiful preserve up above Kapa'a town. And it's the whole, I had not been up there except for once years ago, and I had remembered this great pond lake that comes through. And I didn't have much time. I had about an hour to do this because, again, the weather was not cooperating. But I wanted to just capture the essence of the beautiful reflective water. And a lot of times, that's all it needs. You don't really need a lot of detail in the background to suggest, okay, it's a forest, there are trees around, but you don't have to paint every leaf. I was over on Molokai painting in October. This is up at Kuala Pu'u, which is Molokai, where the old Del Monte plantation used to have its headquarters. This was an old plantation home. I don't want to paint the common, I want to paint the uncommon, if I can. So this is K&I Peninsula on the way out to K&I.
Very beautiful place.
Spectacular, on the way to Hana. It's like the waves were at your feet. And then this one was down out in Paipailoa Road, which is where they filmed a lot of the old hit TV show Lost. Haleiwa is just over on this side. This is Yokohama Bay at the end of the road out past Makaha. I did not take artistic license with the color of the water. That is the color of the water. I wish I had been a painter back in the early days when sugar was covering the islands
Oh,
and
yeah,
pine. You know,
yeah.
my husband worked for Del Monte. That's a story I'll tell you down at Nohea, though. We'll talk about that.
Okay, let's go there.
Let's
now.
go downstairs, yeah. This is Nohea Art Gallery, a very, very important gallery, and I've loved being part of the Nohea Ohana for all these years. My husband worked for Del Monte for 12 years. He retired in 2000, and in 2006, I was casting around for a theme for a show, and I thought, you know, it's about time. We knew that Del Monte was going to be closing its doors. I'd love to do a show on their harvesting and out in the fields and from the workers' perspective. So through Gary's contacts at the plantation, we still had contacts. I rode the trucks out with the workers, walked the fields. The reason I wanted to show you here is because this is one of the last paintings left from this.
This reminds me of the truck.
That's right. And it's called Old Warhorse. And this...
Great piece, great piece.
Yeah. I wanted to capture the workers in the field and this old harvesting truck that dates back to the early 50s, late 40s. And so I just, you know, this is a part of Hawaii's history. This is really historic in terms of kind of capturing this plantation. This is another plantation view. And this last painting, yeah, this is like Honu Playground. This is out Turtle Bay.
Susie Anderson is more than a talented painter. She's an inspiration to all of us, an example of how each of us can relate to the environment, see the profound beauty of our special Hawaii, and how we can find ourselves in it and dedicated our lives to expressing and sharing it with others. Thank you, Susie Anderson, for the gift of your art.
The next time someone tells you that they're an environmentalist, ask them when they last took a walk in the mountains or along the ocean. Then you'll know better the level of their true commitment. In Hawaii, we all need to be environmentalists, personally committed to caring about and also enjoying our unique islands every single day, just like Susie Anderson. And now here's our ThinkTech calendar of events going forward.
On June 23rd at the Plaza Club, ThinkTech, Hawaii Venture Capital Association, and Pacific New Media will present Hawaii's big projects. Are they on track? Reserve your seat for this program at hvca.org or thinktechhawaii.com.
On July 8th, the Hawaii Energy Policy Forum will present its Energy Day celebration at the Laniakea Women's Y on Richard Street. Check it out on hepf.org.
Tonight we're going to start a new feature on ThinkTech. Two young entrepreneurs, Rechung and Hasan, fresh out of the Hogan Business Plan competition at Chaminade, are starting a new business in the tech industry. We're going to check in with them on a regular basis to find out how they're doing, their progress and their problems. Join us every week on ThinkTech to find out how things are going for Rechung and Hasan as they try to build their business here in Hawaii. Tell us about your recent graduation from Chaminade and your involvement in the business plan company.
I graduated an international trade and finance degree, and Hasan here graduated with a Master's of Education degree. And we're both members of the Hogan Entrepreneurship Program. So as a part of this program, for our final year, the goal is to start a new business. And part of that is developing and executing a business plan.
The business was all around a co-working space. And co-working is a space that where entrepreneurs, independents, people that live a mobile lifestyle can go to get things done.
When we were developing the plan, the business environment was different, and there are a few factors that really made us think about how we can change the plan.
What are you worried about in the middle of the night?
Getting the word out, generating that excitement and that awareness that they know that there's a space that's going to be like that, and it's going to be like no other space.
What kind of customer are you going to pick?
They're probably multifaceted individuals, people who are passionate about the work that they do as well as passionate about other things.
You guys have said that you're going to come on our OC16 show. Whenever you come on, you're going to talk about progress of your business. Next week, what can we expect to hear about?
We're having a brainstorm session. We've invited some of the brightest and most creative and savvy business colleagues and friends to meet with us, and we're going to collaborate to come up with an innovative new plan to be able to get our co-work space out. We'll come back to tell you all about how it went, what new ideas we came up with, so we'll come back to share that with you.
Okay, and next week you can also tell me about all the people who are giving you money so that you can conduct this enterprise, right?
Yes.
What's the name of the company?
Company's name is Open Source.
Open source.
Open Source, okay. Yep. We are very excited about you, and we'll check in with you next week.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
And now, here's Bill Spencer, president of the Hawaii Venture Capital Association, with this week's Spensation. He's a great governor as far as I'm concerned. And he's doing very brave and powerful things, and his whole view of the state and its future is pristine as far as I'm concerned. So why are these people knocking on him that way?
Well, I think expectations were set very high. He inherited a mess. You've got a dysfunctional government, a bad economy that's going to continue because it's dependent on tourism, and tourism is going to really take a hit for the next 3 years. So I think we've boxed him in unfairly.
Yeah.
And we need to cut him some slack.
Yeah, plenty of slack, much more slack than we're cutting him. The implication of some of this is that the economy problems are his fault. Are you kidding me? He just came to office. He's been doing a Herculean job about it. And he's got all these great plans and programs and ideas and aspirations. We should encourage him. But to lay the problem of the economy at his doorstep, that's really unfair and ridiculous. How come, we forget so soon what a terrible governor Linda Lingle was? She didn't do anything for the economy. And what's worse is she drove stakes into the heart of the tech industry.
That's right.
So then now we somehow blame him for that? Come on.
That's not fair. And I think, he is very positive. He's already started some trends that are very important. I think one of the most interesting ones is putting emphasis on public-private partnerships. I don't see how we can rely on this state government to solve all our problems. And it's time that the public actually stepped up and does more to help with these problems. A good example is the need for a chief information officer. Now here's a situation where there is no money to appropriate funds for a position or to operate an office, but we have a totally dysfunctional tech infrastructure within state government. Multiple computer centers, no centralization. It's a mess, and it's been a mess for years, and we've known about it. We could save millions of dollars a year, but there was no way to enable this until somebody from the private sector, Piero Majar, committed $2 million, $2 million to fund a position and to get the office started so that they can start making some of these changes and fund the continuation with the savings. Great idea, and it's a good example of where we need to start going. The public needs to step up and help government. I think the public could get involved with the homeless situation.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and so far Neil Abercrombie's way of dealing with the homeless situation is absolutely right. You know, the current controversy about whether people should come and feed them on the site, even though they shouldn't be at that site. He's right. He's absolutely right. I don't know why. You know, he's the governor, after all. He's got to make those decisions. Let him make those decisions. Let him implement his policies, and then take a look at it instead of trying to derail him right in the middle of the policy.
Yeah.
He's trying to execute a plan, and he can't have a minute rest. I agree. People have to be more sympathetic, more supportive, and public-private partnerships are really a good way to do that.
The governor needs our help, so let's give it to him.
Absolutely. This has the potential of being the best administration since statehood, in my opinion. And they have great people, they have great ideas, they have great passion and vision, and if we help them, they'll be able to realize those goals. It'll be a wonderful time in Hawaii.
We'll be right back to wrap up this week's edition of ThinkTech, but first we want to thank our underwriters.
Thanks to the Scheidler Family Foundation. Jay Scheidler, through the Scheidler Family Foundation, supports a number of educational, cultural, and charitable organizations, including ThinkTech.
Hawaiian Electric Company, HECO and its affiliates Miko on Maui and Helco on the Big Island are deeply committed to the communities they serve.
Galen Ho. Galen Ho is a senior executive of BAE Systems, a global defense, security, and aerospace company which has a large presence in and commitment to Hawaii.
Oceanit, a local tech company, is one of Hawaii's largest and most diversified science and engineering companies.
Don't forget ThinkTech. We're funded by gifts and grants from people like you. Please help us out by making a contribution on thinktechhawaii.com. It'll help us with this program and with all of the other things we do to raise public awareness about tech, energy, diversification, and globalism in Hawaii. Thank you so much. Okay, Duke, that wraps up this week's edition of ThinkTech. Remember, you can watch ThinkTech on OC16 several times every week. Can't get enough of it, just like Duke. For additional times, check out oc16.tv.
And for lots more ThinkTech videos and for underwriting and sponsorship opportunities on ThinkTech on OC16, visit thinktechhawaii.com. Be a sponsor and help us reach Hawaii.
I'm Jay Fidell. Thanks for joining us on ThinkTech.
And I'm Duke Oishi. Aloha, everyone.